All right, family. Welcome back to another edition of Melon Economic News. We're going to go ahead and let's get it started. Today is July 22nd, 2021. And the time is 4:09 in the morning. All right, so let's get it started. We got market futures look across the board. S&P, Dow, NASDAQ, Russells, they're all looking up. Going ahead into today's trading. And let's switch on over. All right, look at the FTSE 100 is going down. Look at the Nikkei 225 is up at their steady trading sessions right now. Take a look at Bitcoin. Bitcoin has got a little bit of a bounce after taking a dive again, about just above 32,000. And you got CMC Crypto 200 is just but go ahead and round it up. It's sinking above 800 at about 776.35. All right. So let's get into that 10-year bond. Let's see. Look at the 10-year bond. It's going heading downward. Remember, we always say on the channel, pay attention to that 10-year bond. She's up at 1.2800. All right, as well. Look at the VIX. The VIX is down, looking downward as well. At about 17.70. All right. So take a price. Look at crude oil a little bit. Look at some of the commodities. Crude oil is at $70.13, down 17 cents. And let's look at some of the the futures markets as well. Let's switch on over. That was from yahoofinance.com. Let's switch over to kiko.com. And as we can see here, we see the market prices. We see, yes, look at the precious metal prices in the New York stock market. Oh, we got a little bit of a switch here, but we'll go ahead and switch down to the world spot price. As you can see, the world spot price, gold is down $7 ask for the change. And silver is down as well. Platinum is down. Palladium is up again, and we see rhodium is looking downward as well. All right, we see the gold ratios per ounce. You have silver at about 71.76. That is up from the low that was down to 67 some point some ounces per silver to gold, 1 ounce of gold. Platinum unchanged, a little bit unchanged, and palladium is going down as well. All right, so that was from kiko.com. So yep, that was from kiko.com, and we got into it here. Let's take a look at, before we switch over, let's take a look at what is some of the unit price, what it would cost you in some overseas markets instead of in US dollar terms. So let's take a look at the Hong Kong dollar. We gotta look at how much it costs for the Hong Kong dollar for the asking price of gold, for one of the precious metals, silver. Look at that, 195 Hong Kong dollars. All right. And let's take a look at the Swiss franc. All right. A little bit more cheaper. Swiss franc dollar. The Swiss franc is actually a lot more. It's actually a lot more value than the actual US dollar. That's why you see the price jump, the price downward. All right. So we'll take a look at that one. That's from kiko.com. All right, let's switch over to some actual good news here. All right, this is from JazeeraNews.com. I'm sorry, Jazeera.news. All right, banks in big trouble. Seismic event on the horizon. All right. So the banks are making desperate moves here. Wells Fargo is shuttering their actual lines of credit to regular customers, and that is starting a trigger effect. With the new Basel III rules that have kicked in on June 28th, many banks around the world are now setting the stage of getting rid of their actual credit lines, all right, to their regular customers, and they're now switching over to, if they're getting rid of their credit lines, they're switching over to basically becoming a wealth management firm, getting out of the banking system. That has had seismic shift because Wells Fargo is one of the big top banks in the world, and they're shuttering their credit lines of credit, and they're switching over to more of a wealth management system. That means that something big is going on, and they expect big to be going on. So be expecting big things that the banks are quietly doing. They probably going under some non-disclosure agreements, not to tell people yet until this time. All right. So go ahead and get this article from Jazeera News, Jazeera.news. All right. All right, and here we go. We're switching over to the TrueDefender.com, and here we go. Another story about the banks. The banks will collapse very soon. Chaos is coming. No banks, no public facilities. This is they got this scenario off of if the banks collapse and you can't pull out you can't get any money out of the bank, so you got to basically rely on your cash. All right, this is what the story is basically saying. Sorry about that. Get a little bit better here. Those of us who have bad eyes. All right, with the collapse coming into the U.S., basically saying the collapse is coming. The U.S. is a negative AAA credit rating. Uh, Many in the credit rating agencies, even though the official story has been put out that the U.S. is a negative AAA credit rating, many believe that behind the scenes that the U.S. has been downgraded to actually a negative triple B credit rating. All right. And to back that up, down to the article in the story, if you don't want to listen to Moody's, perhaps you should listen to the man who has been dubbed the world's top trending researcher, Gerald Celente. He owns the Trends Journal. All right, the CEO of the Trends Journal Institute believes we are on the verge of entering the greatest depression. He provides a bleak picture for America's future that is both terrifying and sobering. All right, so basically, get ready. The U.S. is credit rating is actually in the toilet, and people need to understand about what's going on. That when if the banks ultimately collapse and you can't pull your money out, they're not going to tell you. It's just going to close. You're not going to get your money out. Not going to do anything. All right. Yep. All right. So excuse me about that one. So with that being said, we'll switch over to another topic, but go ahead and get this article from thetruthDefender.com. Be prepared for the banks to go ahead and collapse, for the banks to make a switch over. It may be the banks are switching over. It may actually be that the banks have actually go ahead and collapse. Some of them are going to officially close because they're having the repo unbeknownst. We're going to do an update on that story coming soon about the repos actually getting daily. All right, this is a daily that the banks are now coming for asking for well over $1 billion, well over billions of dollars every single night to keep their finances going for the next day. All right. So go ahead and get this article from thetruthDefender.com. All right. And then for our final story. All right. So here with our final story for today. This is from KingWorldNews.com. All right. KingWorldNews.com gets it. Do not pay attention to the takedown. Massive cup handling prices and go ahead to 3,000. All right. According to this news article here, the recent takedown in precious metal prices that should not be easy. They're trying to most corporations, most governments around the world, and banks are still buying up gold. They're trying to get as much as they can to try to save themselves for the coming switch, and trying to say they kind of remember most actual nations' reserves are their financial reserves are in precious metals, particularly gold, silver, and some countries even copper. And Mexico, in this hemisphere, is a big silver producer. All right, so many are going to be switching over. They're going to be trying to buy up, keep the price of precious as long as they can so they can get their reserves up. All right, as well. So get into this article a little bit. All right. Let's go to Keyword News. Egon von Greyerz at Matterhorn Asset Management based in Switzerland. All right. Investors hope that the biggest financial experiment and debt bubble in history will last another 100 years, which that ain't happening, and they can pray for their currency systems, which has lost 90% of its value. Say again, they can pray for their currency system, which has lost 98% of its value in the last 50 years. All right, will last another half century, but the world is investing on a wing and a prayer for extreme poor odds of success, since neither the wing nor the prayer is likely to save investors from the greatest economic and financial collapse in global history. The need for protection or insurance is vital. All right, take that again. Since here, I'm gonna take here in the U.S. Since the Federal Reserve Act of 1913, the actual U.S. dollar value has lost almost 99.9% of its actual value based on what it was before the Federal Reserve currency after the country got out of the financial crisis of the 1870s. All right, and look at what the dollar used to be purchased. Used to go down and buy a bunch of candy for a nickel. I remember growing up. This was back in day five before we even came into the world. But you got to think about it. When I grew up coming up in the 80s and the 90s, you could take $5 and almost fill up your gas tank. Now $5, your gas tank can probably laugh at you, tell you, "Come on, man." But that's getting back to what we said here about the most currencies around the world are fiat. Their intrinsic value is zero, and their purchasing power is based off of what people think it is. But if you look at current inflation, you can't even take $5 and you can barely get you a Whopper with cheese if you still eat fast food. All right. So go ahead and get this article from True Defense from the KingWorldNews.com. All right, that the gold price is going to be heading up. This is what they're predicting. The financial insurance out there, get the financial insurance. Get yourself some precious metals if you can. You don't have to go out and try to spend $10,000 if you don't have it. Start with something low. Start with some gram, 1 gram, 5 grams, 10 grams. Make your way up to ounces, what you can afford. All right. There's no reason why you shouldn't. I'm sorry about that one. That was a rubbish statement I just had. I'm quoting one of the words here. What you can get, go ahead and out there, go ahead and get it while you can. All right, because world governments, World Bank, financial institutions, they're hoarding in and buying up all the precious metals they can get their hands on. All right, even some of us private investors are trying to find where we can get it. All right, there is a correlation to supply and demand out there, and right now the demand is outpacing supply. All right, and the prices has not changed, and they're trying to beat it down as best as they can so they can get more and more and more. All right, so go ahead and hedge yourself against the current inflation, the giant inflation that is coming, even hyperinflation, or even get yourself ready for deflation, deflationary scenarios. All right, so once again, go ahead and get the story from KingWorldNews.com, and like we say, once again, we want you to be safe, be sound. You're your own best banker. You're your own best credit union. You're your own best savings and loans. You're your own best financier. Once again, thank you for joining us. Another edition of Maligama News. Get that barter system started with your neighbors. Get your neighbors together. Get that community system started. Reach out to other communities. Remember, everything starts local. Thank you for joining us once again. Be safe, be sound. And once again, let's get it started.